This next question is from a listener named Corey, and they had kind of like a mental health question. And they asked, in pursuit of better health, some of us endure a pendulum swing and become obsessed with it to the point of it becoming counterproductive. Do you have any insight on this like obsession pendulum swing type thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and thank you for submitting it. I think it's really what we see in society as a whole is that we live in this dogmatic society. It has to be this way, or it has to be that way. There's no in
Mm.
between. And a quick example I can give of this is the idea of your knees going over your toes. So there's one camp that says knee going over your toes is the best thing that you can be doing for knee health, and everyone should be doing it. The other camp says you should never be doing that. That damages your knee cartilage and all these things. And the question that I pose is, why can't we fall in the middle? Because there's a really great time for knees to go over the toes. And there's a time where maybe it's not so great for an individual to have that type of movement. So when we look at these different strategies, these different methodologies, or these different theories that come out, I always beg people to look at the other side of it. So if someone's making this really bold claim, find something that's not in support of it just to get informed on the other side of the story. Once you get both viewpoints, both sides of the story, then you can decide where and when is that going to fit in to whatever strategy may be coming up.
I love that. And kind of going back to the first question, my personal experience typically goes back to my eating habits and things like that. And I remember a season of my life where I became very obsessive about this sort of thing where I thought gluten free was the thing that was going to change my life. And so I was gluten free, sugar free, and basically any like products that had GMOs in it. Like I did not eat at all. And this was what I thought was at the end of my eating disorder. And this was to help my chronic pain and the inflammation I was feeling. So I had a great doctor tell me you have to go as clean as possible for the rest of your life. And so I was doing that, but it became obsessive to the point of I was afraid to eat out because I didn't want my body to flare up. If I had a little bit of sugar, literally just a little bit of sugar, I felt so much pain. And I look back and I know my mind was really the thing creating a lot of that. And some people, do need to eat in a certain way, but for me, it became so obsessive. And I'm grateful I'm at a place where I have found balance. And I think that when people are in the obsessive season, we want to give the advice of find balance in between these different things. But I remember when I was in the season, balance just was not even possible. And so, do you have any thoughts on, if someone is struggling with the balance aspect, like what is a tangible thing that they could commit to? Because when I think of me, the answer I would give was extend yourself grace and extend the situation grace. Like if you're
Mm.
becoming obsessive, you need to pull back and you need to extend grace to whatever is going on in the environment and in your mind. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that specifically.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts came up, so I'm going to extrovert them out and see where this goes. I was watching this video with Kobe Bryant the other day, and
Love
one
Kobe.
thing that he had mentioned in this interview was that emotions, they come, and as much as they come, they go. So when things come up, it is our duty to sit with those emotions and process them and then let them go. But I think sometimes when we're caught in the middle of these things, we forget that idea of, oh yeah, we can let them go. Like they're passing through us. They're not, we're not stuck with this emotion. So that's one thought that came up. Another thought that came up, and kind of more of an example, is that when whenever we hear this claim that this is the thing that is going to heal you, that is a red flag,
Mm.
because it's not just this one thing. And in the book, we talk about that in Hope Not Nope. Like, we claim that hope is the greatest healing agent available, but to have hope, it's gratitude, forgiveness, sleep, nutrition, community. It's all of these things that accumulate to this umbrella idea of hope.
Hmm.
So it's not this one thing. An example here is with diet. I need to eat clean, so I'm gonna eat a healthy fat. So I'm eating avocados. But now there's a lot of research showing if I eat that avocado after a stressful meeting, my body digests that as if it's an LDL, which is not a good fat, versus an HDL, which is a good fat. So it's not so much, yes, it matters what you're putting in, but what matters more is what is your stress levels when you're eating that thing, because your body will digest it in a stressful event as if it is a quote unquote bad food versus a quote unquote good food.
Mm.
So if someone's like, hey, to feel better, you need to eat this food, I would say, well, what matters also with that food is when are you eating it? Why are you eating it? And, and an example of that is Brandy doesn't like this so much, but if I've had a stressful day, I don't have sugar. And the reason being is because now I'm setting up a conditioning pattern in which I'm rewarding myself, or I'm using the sugar as a crutch to de-stress, which isn't a healthy habit to have.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a good day and a happy day and it's like, yeah, let's go get ice cream because I'm feeling good today, my body's going to digest that in a different way compared to going, wow, today was really hard. It was really tough. All these things came up. And then I go have that. My body's going to digest that in a not so positive way. So, how do we find balance in all this? Well, we realize that it's not just a thing; it's the things.
Mm-hmm.
But then we can get overwhelmed. And what really helped me 3 years ago was learning about the percent of marginal gains, or the aggregation of marginal gains. If you strive to be 1% better each day, which 1% is not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it started with waking up and making my bed. That was the 1% I strive for. And then I accomplished that. And it was, what's the next 1% I can get better at? What's the next 1%? Over a year, you don't notice too much of a change. Over 2 years, not so much of a change. But at 3 years, you start to notice this exponential gain
Mm.
in one direction if you were getting 1% better versus if you're getting 1% worse.
Mm.
So know that to find balance, it's the small things. It's those little things that add up over time.
I love that. And Corey, I just thank you for that question because I think there's a lot of people who want balance but don't know how to find it, or they become obsessive and it feels counterproductive, and there's a lot that goes within that pendulum swing. But I think that wisdom is great of the 1% better every day, because every person can do one thing better. And I remember when I was going through therapy years ago, my doctor told me, not every day is not, and if you can see in a video, my hand is up like over my head. I can't compare the day that's way up here to my low day. Every day is going to be different. You're going to have rough days, you're going to have the best days ever, but within those days you can still have that 1% of what did I do today to better myself, better the people around me, better my environment. And so thank you for that wisdom.
Yeah, and to that point, another thought that came up from this is that, like you said, you're not going to have every day is not going to be 100% super smiley face
Hmm.
emoji day, but a lot of days can be that way. And the last thought I have on this concept is that if we're turning one obsession into another obsession, we're really not moving forward.
Hmm.
We're really just filling that obsession with another distractor. I see it all the time when people are, I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore. So they start drinking like 3 teas a day. It's like, well, is that really better?
Yeah.
That like now you're filling yourself with all this caffeine. Well, I'm not going to drink tea anymore. I'm only going to drink soda. Well, okay, now like that's not great either. So if you're constantly jumping from one obsession to the next obsession, I think there's something more there.
Hmm.
I think there's something deeper that's being avoided, that potentially we're using these other things to distract ourselves from that. So then I would challenge, if a person is having that, which is very common to have in society, to ask yourself, why am I jumping from this thing and obsessing to this thing? Is it because I'm not willing to sit with some of these other thoughts or some of these other habits that are really ingrained into me that I can change and I know I can change, but maybe I'm not willing to?
Mm, I love that. So maybe dive in and have a little self reflection, and and be kind to yourself in the midst of that, because I think when we self reflect, I know for me in a different season of my life, I would self reflect, but it would turn into just self hatred. We don't
Yeah.
want that either. Don't become obsessed with hating yourself. That's not the goal.
Yeah.
But take time to reflect and say, okay, what's the reality of what's going on here? And and be kind in that and be compassionate in that, but then see what you can improve moving forward.